What's up, guys? I am so glad to bring you another Cloudhammer review. This is a S5 Wakizashi, or is it really a Wakizashi? As with all my videos, guys, I support our U.S. veterans. Hashtag 22 a day no more is what I'm calling it. It's where we're trying to grow awareness for veteran suicide. Veterans, you have a place here, as always. So our active military, we treasure your service, we treasure you in this country. And veterans, if you have any trouble coping with your everyday, there are numbers in the description for some fine folk that can help you, but you are always welcome on my channel. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me on my video today. This is Joe from Steel, Forge and Fire, Sword and Knife, or my new handle I just created is actually Joe Steel 1. That's my new handle I created on YouTube. If you don't know about YouTube handles, look it up. You probably got alerts about it. I think they're releasing handles now where it's easier to find a YouTuber, you know, if you're out of YouTube. They'll explain it all, but my new handle is Joe Steel 1. So I have a new Wakizashi here, guys, from straight from John from RVA Katana and straight from Cloudhammer Steelworks to him for the sake of review. Thank you, John, for allowing me to review this beautiful Wakizashi, or is it really a Wakizashi? It's the main highlight of this sword is the fact that it is S5 steel. Now there is a lot of importance in that. I'm going to dig into that with the review, but why I feel like it's being sold as an S5 Wakizashi, but it can be sort of a Katana. The actual length of the blade is actually around 23.5 inches. It's approaching 24. It's approaching probably the maximum that a Wakizashi could be. The length of the ska is around 9 inches. That's normally around 7-8 inches. So for argument's sake, it is a Wakizashi, but it's kind of trying to be a Katana. Katana is a shorter katana, and that's like in between the Wakizashi and the katana is the Katana. So this is kind of, I feel like it's trying to be a Katana, but it is a Wakizashi. So that's what we're going to call it, guys. It's an S5 Waki. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Let's show you some beautiful details of the sword and break it down for you. Okay, guys, so this is another Cloudhammer Steelworks review I have for you today. It's an S5 Wakizashi. That's basically how it's described on the website. I am, got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed. I'm not trying to be a fanboy, guys, but it's kind of hard when they're kind of throwing all these really nice, well-made swords at me. Very good for the price, very well designed. I love the fact that they're using all these different types of steels. I don't know how they are to failure because I haven't had the allowance to basically bring it to failure, but from doing normal cutting, these swords are failing very well and have a very good fit and finish, very good polished look. No surprise with Cloudhammer Steelworks so far. The ska really nicely shaped there. It looks like they're trying to approach an hourglass shape. It has a slight curvature to the wood. Carving, it just fits, your hands fit really snugly around the handle. They're very comfortable to hold. And as always, I love the leather wrap that they use to wrap, the Ito leather wrap that they use on their skies is really very soft, very well done, and very high quality. And it's definitely genuine leather. As with all their swords, the transitions are done fairly well. Not perfect on some very high-priced swords, but it is a very good transition between the Ito, the Kashida. There's a little bit of an overlap there. I like to see that lined up by the Kashida, but it's still fairly well done. And as always, very tight, very hard to move the Ito. They do a really good job on the Tsukamaki on these swords. Diamonds are fairly even. As always, good quality Samegawa ray skin. You see how the diamonds really line up very well. Not perfect, but they do a really great job on lining up their diamonds, wrapping it well, and giving you some good quality Samegawa. The Sayo, the scabbard of the sword, very well done. Doesn't have any distal taper like some of the other katana I'm going to be reviewing from them. It's one solid piece in terms of the width, but there's barely any ripple lines. It's a very smooth paint job that they do on their sayas. It's a black varnish with white speckles, not really a fingerprint magnet, which I'm a big fan of. It's just very well done saya. The Sageo rope is normal, good quality Sageo rope. Not the best, but it's a really good quality Sageo rope. I think a practitioner would definitely appreciate using it. The Shitadomes, though, I wish they would just either glue them in or just take them out. I had a talk with them about that. Hopefully they change something with that. The only problem that I encountered with the sword was there was some sword rattle. Which, it's not really a big problem unless you're a samurai back in the old day and you were sneaking around and you don't want to be heard. That's the only time it's going to be really a big problem. But unsheathing and sheathing the sword was not an issue. It has such a great fit of the habaki to the koiguchi to the mouth of the saya. It was very easy to unsheath. The perfect amount of tension to basically to not fall out of its scabbard, but also to simply thumb push it out. It was very easy to go in and out. Not quite like rails, but very, very close to it. Very comfortable unsheathing and sheathing this sword. Now, the koshirai of this sword has a theme of a crane and sokaris. I definitely butchered that. That is the theme of the pieces on this sword. You notice the fuchi there. Really good transitions. Very, very clean lines there. It kind of dips in a little bit, but it's clean with the ito. You see the theme of the sword prominent throughout all their pieces. Now, understand, you can buy a blade from them, guys, and you can customize to whatever koshari you want, whatever theme you want, or whatever type of pieces or color scheme you want. You're basically just really buying the blade from them, or you can buy one of their stock pieces already made, like this waki on their website, which you might even see different pieces on it. So you might want to just look for a S5 Wakizashi. But for the sake of this review, the pieces are fairly well done. Nice details. Very impressed with the koshirai. The pieces that they have here are pretty good detail. They're pretty good castings. They look like they're new castings, not done over and over again, but they do a really good job. You can see a couple of details in the cranes there. The kashira or the pommel, again, still follows the same theme with the crane. Now, as you get really close with like a macro lens, you see a couple imperfections in the mold, but for the most part, to the human eye, this looks really good. Details in the feathers with the crane on its perch there. Really good job on this kashira, following the same motif and the theme prominent throughout this whole sword. Knot was done fairly well. Everything lines up pretty well. It's a very tight knot. You can't move it. What I noticed also, the kashira was glued in or tied up really tight. I know there was an issue with one of the first swords I reviewed where it had a loose kashira, so it's good that they're listening and they did some improvements to improve the fit and finish of the kashira to the ska. Really extreme close-up of the Manuki here. I really love feathered themed Manukis, and this Manuki's pretty well done. I mean, you see the lines and the feathers and all that. Kind of reminds me of like the Skyjiro swords with the theme with the feathers, and big fan of this. Okay, the Suba or the handguard. Perfect size of this Suba to this sword, which is not a very big sword. No sharp edges, nothing that bites into your hands. Again, following the motif, great detail on the Suba, lightweight. It's actually all of the pieces are, they call it a 3-color brass, so it's 3 colors of brass within all of the koshari on this sword. But transitions are pretty good, everything lines up pretty well. What I forgot to notice is that the makugi pegs, or the wooden pegs that hold the ska in place to the tang or the nakago, are painted black, and they're visible and they're easy to remove, which I am always looking for swords that do not have the makugi pegs underneath the ito, where you would have to take it apart in order to maintain and remove it. But the Suba is really nice. The habaki, I believe, is a polished brass habaki. The transitions and the fit of the habaki to the nagasa, the blade, is fairly well done. The munamachi's pretty evenly fit. You notice some surface scratches there, I guess, from the friction of the going in and out of the saya. I did some polishing because there was some black marks, but for the most part, it's polished pretty well to the naked eye without these extreme close-ups. It does luster really well and really stand out on the sword. You notice you can get a fingernail closer to the hob, but for the most part, it is a pretty good fit. Not perfect, but very good fit. Notice on a very expensive sword, usually the saya and the fuji usually line up perfectly on a very high-priced sword. This lines up pretty well towards the bottom, but not at the top. They could have probably centered it out more to line up a little bit better, but it is really good execution. I mean, you can't ask for that much depending on the price that you're paying for the sword, but the execution is very clean. The koiguchi, or the mount of the saya, really good looking wood. The wood looks like it's of good quality. You don't see any gunkiness or anything like that, anything that's sticking out that would alarm you. But they shaped it pretty well to the habaki, because I can't complain about the fit and the friction of the sheathing and unsheathing. You see how it could have been lined up a little bit better there, but they kind of shaped it to the habaki to the point where it does fit very well into the saya, the blade into the saya. But pretty good execution there, very clean wood, pretty much, no complaints in basically how this was done. But that's been pretty much the case with many of Cloudhammer swords. Really love the lustrous blue color of this Sageo rope. You can see close up, it is pretty good quality Sageo rope. The paint job, I'm not sure if it's a bullhorn corrugata, but the paint job was pretty evenly done. There's no smudges or overlaps or anything like that. Nice execution that they did on this here. The Nagasa, the blade where the soul of the samurai is embedded. The S5 steel on this sword is the main highlight of this Wakizashi. And that's also where all of the price of this sword comes in at around $650. It's because you are paying for the S5 steel. S5 steel is done differently. It's a true hardened blade. You cannot put a hormone on the S5 because it kind of ruins the toughness of the blade, because it is a vacuum sealed forge that is used to make the S5 steel. On paper, S5 is more like S7. Yes, it seems they're both just as tough. However, the S7 falls off after 57 HRC, but the S5 remains tough at 59 HRC and above. It remains tough and it remains hard. That is the beauty of this steel, that the toughness is there, but the hardness can go up to over 59 HRC and still have really good edge retention. It has been said that S5 should be even tougher than L6, because L6 tops off at around 57 HRC. So I would say S5, from what I've been reading, is probably an even more superior steel to L6. What I also noticed about S5 from the testing that they gave me, it's not spring steel, but it could actually, they were able to bend it up to 90 degrees without it breaking, which is pretty damn amazing. I would have to see it myself, but for shit sure, this is very, very, very tough steel. You have to notice the mirror polish that they put on their blades. This is with the use of an extreme close-up macro lens, where I'm able to show you the actual reflection of the blade as I turn it and spin it around. It's reflecting the light really well. It's got pretty smooth lines, not perfect, but pretty smooth lines, and the reflective capabilities of this mirror polish on this blade is pretty impressive. So this type of steel is definitely made to be more of a chopper. It's a very strong blade. I think it's made to hit hard materials, has great edge retention. I think it can be an all-around great steel. I'm actually looking forward to cutting with it, which I did some cutting with it, some practice cuts. I have yet to do a full cutting session, but I wanted to do some cuttings with it, some light cutting, just to touch the edge geometry and how good it came sharp out of the box. Now, what I tried to cut here were dry water bottles. Now, with dry water bottles, you got to have good edge profile on the blade, and you have to have a sharp blade. And luckily, this sword pretty much had both, because I had probably one of the cleanest cuts on an air-filled bottle rather that I've ever had. My edge alignment was good, but the sword had a really good profile and a really sharp edge. You notice how absolutely clean that blade cut right through that water bottle. Now here is another test to test out the edge profile and the sharpness of the blade. Those damn pool noodles. Got through the pool noodles really well, very clean cuts, very little effort, really good cutting sword. I'm actually really looking forward to throwing some tatami mats at this thing. As you would imagine with any Wakizashi, it feels really good as a one-handed weapon. This felt pretty nimble in the hand, a little bit weightier than I would expect it to be. I think maybe because of the steel, but you could also use it as a two-handed weapon, because there is enough real estate on the ska, around 9 inches, that you can use it as a two-handed weapon. But I was using it from the left, from the right. I found pretty good control of the tip. As you can see, even with the cuts, I had some really good perfect edge alignment on those cuts, on the air bottle, on the pool noodles. But it does feel really good in the hand as a one-handed weapon. I think if you're looking for something in an S5 steel in a Wakizashi size, I think this is definitely a good option. So guys, I am planning to do a full cutting session with this katana. I don't think it's gonna be a problem getting through some tough tatami mats. I may even double roll a couple of them. I'm gonna be even trying to test the edge a little bit, and test the toughness of this S5 steel, this like legendary toughness of this S5, this S style type of steel, S7, S5. I'm gonna try to hit some wood blocks. I'm gonna try to push it a little bit further, not abusing the sword, but really just trying to see what the toughness is all about with this S5. Honestly, guys, with the few cuts that I did with this, I mean, I've never had such a clean cut of a water bottle like I did with this katana. It was effortless. The bottle kind of just flew off when it was cut, not before, and it was able to do a very clean, completely straight, no jagged edges on the plastic, cut right through it. It was amazing. So it did a really nice job. In terms of the edge profile that's on it now, is it sharp? Yeah, it's freaking sharp. I mean, it wouldn't have done this if it wasn't sharp. Edge alignment was absolutely perfect. But if you don't have a good sharp, good edge, good geometry on the edge, has a lot of Nico on it, but they sharpen it enough where I'm able to do a very difficult air cut on a water bottle, and it's really, really clean. And if you look at the pool noodles, equally as clean cuts, guys, no jagged edges, went right through effortlessly. And you know what? You got to have a sharp sword in order to get through pool noodles. Yes, it wasn't the double, triple pool noodle cuts of Eric Hussein, but I'm just testing out the sword right now to give you an idea of the edge profile and the sharpness of the sword out of the box. I haven't honed it. I haven't sharpened it. I haven't touched it. It came out of the box, out of the saya, and I did some cutting. I may do some honing with it, run it through an edge sharpener test, see how the edge retention holds up after the cutting, and then I'll go back after the cutting and test the edge to see if any of the sharpness diminished after I do some of the full cutting. So guys, hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is a S5 Wakizashi from Cloudhammer Steel Works. They're just hitting out of the park with everything they're delivering, and it's really all about their steel. It's all about their blades, guys. You can choose whatever you want in the koshere in terms of the fittings and all that. But really what they're selling you is really these expertly made blades, you know, a pretty good fit and finish for the price that you're paying for the sword. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. Joe from Steel Forging Fire, Sword and Knife. I will see you in the next Sword and Knife video. Thanks for your support. Much love and respect to each and every one of you. Ciao.